Peace and grand rising to the sovereign original indigenous. I'm going to put the call in lecture mode, Islam, so that we can hear just for the moment, and then we'll unmute as well, as usual. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American Article 3, court action. I am sovereign living justice, Pauline Denise Ricky and Capitalization Shonolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui jure, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are, and all Moors are, in Capitalization Shonolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui jure, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are the ancient, living, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American, ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, ancient, natural, divine empire state of Morocco and the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Article 3 Universal Moorish American Consular Court. We are peace. We are one nation. We are one state. We are one empire, and we are one God. We hereby exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, non pro tempore. So today, the first thing we want to get right into is how to flip a court back onto its rightful place, and to make it so that you know and they know that you are the court. Okay? How to flip a court. Okay? So just a moment. Let me... you know what? I'm not even going to do that. Let's hear. So in the chat, before we go into this, in the chat there is a question, and the question is put forth by one of the subjects. We know the subjects because they write a certain way. And the subject says to ask the instrument that the Empire State uses why a certain instrument is in jail right now. And so when it comes to all Moors who are currently being held in detainment camps, the reason that they're there has nothing to do with them committing a crime generally. It has everything to do with Moors who have not properly and competently and peacefully proclaimed on the public record that they are not a part of the United States Corporation Company, that they are a part of the Empire State, because the United States Corporation Company is stateless. Okay? So now, let's go straight into how to flip those courts so that we don't end up in those situations. Okay? So now, I am going to, okay. So let's talk about the flipping of the court. Everyone who has been in those prisoner of war camps, at one point, they were sent something in either, and it wasn't sent to them, it was sent to a court, in the mail, or in the example that we're going to use today, which is an actual, it's a real example, that it's a demonstration that we did last week. Because many talk about removal of court actions to the Article 3 court. More contact us, or they say things on the public record that they need help, they need their case moved to the Article 3 court. Well, Moors, you have the authority to move anything, any of those fake actions to your court. Your state, your Empire State of Morocco court, this is how it's done. So one of the emphases received, actually, and it was, again, it wasn't directed at her. It was directed at an instrument. And let's just say that instrument was, I'll just use my instrument as an example, and the instrument that the United States Corporation Company created to mimic my Empire State instrument of Pauline Denise Ritchie. Okay? The United States Corporation Company, the dead one, produced an instrument in black ink in capital letters called, it looks like Pauline Denise Ritchie. So what did we have to do? And they started calling that instrument into court and charging that instrument with debt and all of that. They started doing that. And then they would send it to their address. Because the addresses, just like our Grand Chief said this past Friday at House of Reawakening Minds, the addresses are tax addresses. They're for tax purposes. Well, we know we're not taxed, and we know we don't have an address. We have mailing locations. So now with the Pauline Denise Ritchie, what I did was I leaned the one that the United States Corporation Company was using because it's fraud. That is not a true state instrument that credit can be sent back and forth with. It's a debtor. So I leaned that one, and I issued, thank you in the chat, whoever put that in the chat, thank you. What the subject put in the chat, it says, for all you newbies here, Pauline, and they put it with a capital P, thank you so much for that, has 3 warrants out for her arrest because of one of her demonstrations. That's what the subject put in the chat. Actually, that one that the subjects are referring to has 4 warrants out because I issued one also. No, it's 4. 4 for that thing. Because, see, what they're doing is talking about the United States Corporation Company one. Okay? So that thing, I issued a 4th warrant in January. It's on the public record at YouTube at Like to Jerry Bay channel. And then what did I do? I issued, first of all, the Empire State of Morocco, which is the people. That's all Moors. Issued Pauline Denise Ritchie instrument, which is a federal person under the Empire State of Morocco, not the United States Corporation Company, not them. So our Empire State has the ability to do that same type of reversion of the state back to the creditors in every way possible. So someone, and let's continue talking about that. So one of the state courts, sent something to their court that said, it's on the screen here. Just one moment. Let me clarify one little thing here. Let me clarify something really quickly. Just a moment. Okay. So now, so on the screen, they were talking to their court when they put this, they sent this by phone, and they were talking to their court. saying, "Dear Miss J," and Miss J, it has black ink and capital letters, etc. "Please be advised that a hearing has been set in your case before Judge someone on Monday, January 31st, 2022 at 11:30 a.m. for violating the court no contact order." Now, it says specifically the motion alleges that you sent an email to after the hearing. You may appear in person in courtroom 3B via Zoom as follows. And then they put the Zoom in blue, and they had the audacity to signal us by putting the Zoom information in red. So what did we do? First of all, we know that when they use capital letters in black ink, they're talking to their court, okay? How do we know that? Because we know that they use capitalism to speak. And then they try and get the living in all lowercase letters to pretend to be their court. You can see that in this writing right here. "Please be advised that a hearing has been set in your case." Your case. Well, they're saying that the living has a case before whoever this subject is. Okay, so what did we have the Empress do? We had the Empress, we suggested, because we can't tell sovereigns what to do, but we suggested, and this Empress she did beautifully. And this was going on at Florida territory, and we're at Washington territory, ancient Morocco, and we were still able to flip that court into what it should be. So what we did was we took this Zoom information and we sent the command to appear. At the same time, same Zoom information, right? And we said, we already know that, we know that when the people call them to court, they have to appear, right? Did they appear? Yes, they did appear in Article 3, Moorish American Consular Court. So we had our flags here. We had our white robe and our white turban. And guess what? They were sitting over there in black looking dead. So this is the information that we sent. We used their information knowing that they would appear. Okay? And we will place this information here on the screen so you can take a screenshot of it. This is what it says. Of course, it has the court action language here. And then it says attached is the command for all subjects to appear at this sovereign court. The Empress also liened them, every last one of them. She put a lien together so quickly. I've never seen anybody put a lien together that quickly, but she did it. And she is a new Moor. She's a new Moor. But she is demonstrating greatly. And then we put our spells at the end, called the subjects in, putting everything for the subjects in blue because she had already leaned the black off of them. She leaned the black off the subjects. So when the Zoom first opens, okay, it's automatically our court, Morris. So when you get anything, when you see anything like that, flip it and use that same information to call them into your court. That is how you flip a court. And then this is what happened with the demonstration. When the Zoom came on, we were there, we were here, And as soon as the Zoom came on, of course, their faces looked completely different 2 seconds after seeing the air. We began our court action as soon as the Zoom came on. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, original, indigenous, ancient, Al Moroccan, Moorish American Article 3 consular court action. I am sovereign, living justice, etc. We did all of that. We are the people. And then we began the question of what is your name? And as soon as we said, what is your name, guess what they did? Abandoned the court. What does that look like? That looks like them. Hurry up and get it. They hit the button. Well, it's our court. So if you are no longer in our court, that means that you ran out, that you abandoned. And we know more that he who leaves the battlefield first loses. That's a maxim. So what did we do? We continued with our court action all the way until it was complete, and they were sentenced to 2 weeks in jail, okay, and or a 2-week constitutional law re-education training class. And then what did we do? We sent them an arrest command, and actually we sent it to the provost marshal, and you can see the email there, the provost marshal, after we completed even though they had abandoned and went running off the battlefield, we finished stating what needed to be stated, and then we sent this out. A command to arrest subjects doing business as this judicial censure judges, okay? Now, I will say this, that the moment they saw us and the moment we saw them, everything was put in its rightful place, both in our minds and theirs. I'll say that when I first saw them in black, everything over there it's almost like I was presiding over a funeral. And the looks on their faces. And of course, the first thing, once I started doing the court action, the first thing that the dead started trying to say is, ma'am, you've got to be quiet in here. Ma'am, be quiet. Well, we already know that we're not ma'am. We keep going because they're belligerent. So you keep going. No matter what, keep going. Finish your sentence them. Sentencing, the reason that word is used is because it's a spell. That's why they say you are hereby sentenced to, because they're still putting the lettering and the capitalism and the language trying to put that over you. So instead, we put it over them. Okay? And so we sent this out. And some more have been talking about things like, where does the gold come in at, and where does all of that come in at? We are a merciful court. We didn't sentence the subjects to death. What we said was right here, in the matter of the subjects named below, this arrest command is hereby issued by the people who are the Empire State of Morocco. The subjects named below did appear as commanded via Zoom meeting below and did commit fraud against the state on the record. The arrest for each subject named below is hereby commanded by the state. Bail for each subject is set at 10,000 gold-backed Moorish sovereign dollars or 10,000 in gold United States dollars delivered to this court mailing location. The next court date for this matter is to follow the arrest of the subjects named below. And then I named the subject, this is hereby activated. And we put that the American Provost Marshal is hereby activated and granted legation, because remember we talked about delegation of authority, et cetera, et cetera. Delegation means don't do it. Arm, leg, arm, head. Allah. That's what Allah really means. Arm, leg, arm, head. Everything that happens on our land has to happen through us. We don't sit around and wait for some other state court to do anything. They're actually assisting by even sending this type of information of there's some court action, et cetera, by Zoom. Okay? And then we said the next court date for this matter to will follow the arrest of the subject's name below. And the American Provost Marshal is hereby activated and granted legation for this action to arrest the subject name below in the favor of the state. So it's not in the favor of like to jure they. It wasn't in the favor of the Empress or me. It was in the favor of all Moors, which is the entire state of Morocco, right? And that way, this can't keep happening to others. So now, once the Empress sent a termination of corporate contracts, all of that was sent like the day before. And then we sent some documents as well, because, we were demonstrating. That's what we spend our time doing, demonstrating. And so when we sent the documents that we sent documents that had already been accepted by the lower inferior court. Okay? And we'll show you some more of that. We showed that on Thursday. We'll show some more of that today. Because, see, Moors sometimes don't realize that their documents are accepted right off the bat. As soon as you create your documents and you put them in the post office box, at the post office, they're already accepted. And we talked about this on Thursday. We'll talk about it. We'll just show you really quickly what that looks like. Okay. So here we've already, now all Moors who are doing court action, you can have the gold sent to your mailing location, but you got to know you're not having anything sent to an address, because they can't send gold to an address. It has to go to a mailing location, and it has to be the state. And all Moors have a state mailing location. And when you're doing court action, okay, and doing court matters, the court is obligated to receive for the debts that these corpses create. Okay? And then in the interim, you can send delarium to the subject so that they carry out whatever needs to be carried out. So in furtherance of this court action, we then sent some other commands to the subject about housing or domiciling for the Empress who was assisting. Actually, it was her demonstration. I was just assisting her, and she demonstrated beautifully because she had her white on, she had her flag, she did her own liens and her own documents all very quickly. She missed sleep doing the documents because she knew that they're not getting away with this. And so we gave further action, the state gave further action whereby our state resources, which is domicile, conveyances, and all of that, we ordered them to assist with that because the subjects are nothing but custodians of what is already ours. Okay? And so with regard to the capitalization piece that we keep talking about, Where capitalism is concerned, the United States Corporation Company, the one in black ink and capital letters with the brackets around them, that United States Corp has been issuing for every one of us. They have pretended to issue documents, birth certificates, Social Security, and then they use those to speak to the courts that they created. That's why we had to do the things that we have encouraged our Moors to do. Create your own sovereign living birth affidavit. Create your own sovereign security number. Sovereign security number. What does that number look like? It's a creditor number. It looks just like the social, except it's in red and it doesn't have any dashes, because dashes are a minus sign. It's the sign of a debtor. Now, as we move further, there'll be a place for minus signs, but it has nothing to do with the Moors. It's going to be for those who tax, corporations and companies, those doing business that way, in that manner. But that's later. That's a call for another time. So the capitalization that we've been talking about, see, some don't believe that it's the letters, okay? So we want to just show you really quickly. All we did was Google capitalization, the act or process of capitalizing. That's what I Googled. Because we know capitalization creates an automatic financial connection called a bond or a stock between the word in all lowercase letters and each version of capitalization. That's why capitalism is what they love so much. They love capitalism because it keeps giving them a bond or a connection so that they can claim something. That's why we have to lean their ability to capitalize. And then the Empire State of Morocco issues its own instrument of capitalization. So when we Googled the act or process of capitalizing, look what came up, and look, they didn't even pull these apart. Somebody says it's the act or process of capitalizing or capitalization of earnings. So again, capitalization and money, they go together. It is a sum resulting from a process of capitalizing. That means that anytime someone's capitalizing, there's some money involved somewhere. Somebody owes something when you see those capital letters come flying up through them. It depends on who's issuing the capital letters and have they properly rebutted the fraudulent capital letters. Because we can use capital letters, but they have to be issued by the sovereign state, which is the Moors, all Moors. And then someone else says capitalization means using capital. Oh, isn't that a financial word? Using capital or uppercase letters. Capital, when they are talking about we have to raise capital for this, and we were raising capital for that. What does that mean? The word raise, when you look it up in an older dictionary, does not mean lifting something up. The way that they use it, raise means to level. To level. So they say we're going to raise this building. That means they put explosives in it and they bring it on down to the ground and level it to the ground. So that's what they mean. But the grand rising for us is always superseding all others. And then here's more. Capitalization. The act or process of capitalizing. The authorizing or the authorized or outstanding stocks and bonds of a corporation. Accounting. Capitalization is accounting. Capitalization, the act or process of capitalizing. The total investment of the owners, etc. Okay? So more, when you're talking about finance and money and what you need, you must take complete control of your own capitalization. They can no longer capitalize Pauline Denise Ritchie without the state's permission. And who is the state? All Moors. The Empire State of Morocco. How did we do that? With the fiduciary document and a lien on the United States Corporation Company and all of that. And then we got that lien stamped by the inferior court. And they stamped them, one in purple, because we know purple is our royal subject, and one in blue and red. So we'll show you one of those shortly. We'll show you a little bit about that shortly. Now, the topic that we were speaking of on Thursday is about your affidavits already being accepted. Let me say that the fact that the post office is here on this land and that the banks are here on this land, the fact that they even exist says that there's an offer out there that needs to be accepted. And we put that forth here by looking at the posting rule. The posting rule, or the mailbox rule, in the United States, also known as the postal rule or deposited acceptance rule, is an exception to the general rule of contract law in common law countries that acceptance of an offer takes place when communicated, period. There's a period there. Are we in the United States? No. Are we the original United States in red and all lowercase letters? Yes, we are. They copied us. They didn't come up with that on their own because they don't have not a single original thought. The corpses, not one. They subrogated, attempted to subrogate, and attempted to hypothecate our status. And whenever we see rules and codes and statutes, all we do is put them in red and all lowercase letters and we elevate them up to the status of law because we have the authority to do that. And each state makes laws for their own state. Okay? It says here, let me make sure that you can see this. That is on the screen, I believe it is. Yes. Okay. It says here, under the posting rule, that acceptance takes effect when a letter is posted. That is, dropped in a post box or handed to a postal worker. In plain English, the meeting of the minds necessary to contract formation occurs at the exact moment word of acceptance is sent. You know, they never even had to get it. It just needed to be sent by the heirs via post by the person accepting acceptance, rather than when that acceptance is received by the person who offered the contract. Now, what is the contract? The contract is the Constitution. Because as you know, we don't contract with subjects. We don't contract with subjects. They have a long-standing contract called the Constitution for the United States. And so it says here, the rules of contracts by post or postal rule include the following. An offer made by post letter is not effective until received by the offeree. Have we received the Constitution and have they received the Constitution? Yes, already done. Therefore, acceptance is already granted. Acceptance is effective as soon as it is posted. Posted means that is dropped in a box or handed to a postal worker. For revocation to be effective, it must be received by the offeree before they post their letter of acceptance. Now, revocation and jurisdiction for us are the same thing. jurisdiction can be invoked at any time. Revoke and invoke are derivatives. One is in one direction, one is in the other. Okay? No one has the authority to revoke anything except the mower. And that's at our own word. Okay? It says, one rationale given for the rule is that the offeror nominates the post office as his or her implied agent. And thus, receipt of the acceptance by the post office is regarded as receipt by the offerer. So we've been stating this repeatedly on the record that when you send it, when you get that thing, those affidavits to the post office, it's considered accepted then, and you can proceed with your action in that manner. That it's already been accepted because it's what we say anyway. So all of those documents from the past that you put into the post office, they're accepted already. Okay. Now, I will say this about them. We need to be competent as we put our documents forth so that acceptance can manifest for us. And we're competent, okay? We're competent. We just have to stay together like we're doing. Just stay together, keep going, keep moving. It says the main effect of the posting rule is that the risk of acceptance being delivered late or lost in the post is placed upon the offerer. If the offerer is reluctant to accept this risk, he can always expressly require actual receipt as a condition before being legally bound by his offer. And that's just talking about the green and white receipts. So when we get those back, and let me give you an example of what those look like. This is one, let's see, this one. This is one that we received back from our office of the Federal Reserve last month or month before last. Month before last. And we sent all of these documents, Constitution in red and all lowercase letters. Now, when you send these, when you use this mailing process, because we don't use fiat, we did not use fiat to do this. We addressed it properly, meaning this that it's going to, this office that it's going to, this is how we noted that. Okay, it's in blue. This label is a blue label, and notice that it is last name first, comma, and then the first name last. Okay, so that is how you note your, and then this right here is the back of the same card. Now, if you'll notice up here in the corner, first class mail postage and fees already paid. USPS permit number G-10. The debtor's already paid, so we don't have to pay the mail thing. Okay? Now, it's going to say here, sender, please print your name, address, and zip +4 in this box. But if you'll notice here, we don't have a zip code here. And it still got back to us with all of this on it. Natural area code, care of 911, Southwest 3. If you look at that, in all lowercase letters, the Empire State, the government, etc. Natural area code, latitude and longitude. And in latitude and longitude, we didn't put any minus signs either, because latitude and longitude sometimes has minus signs when you're talking about them, but it doesn't when we're talking about us, and it still made it back to us. And again, this is the same one here. You can see this long 9590 number ending in 81. And there it is. Okay. Now, that's what acceptance looks like. The next part of the acceptance piece is the mailbox rules. The mailbox rule, also called the posting rule, which is the default rule under contract law for determining the time at which an offer is accepted, states that an offer is considered accepted at the time that the acceptance is communicated, whether by mail, email, etc. Parties can alter their contract to not use the mailbox rule to and determine between themselves at what time an offer will be considered accepted. And it says the rule originated in the British case of Adams v. Linsell, etc., when the court adopted mailbox rule varies from state to state. Okay? From state to state means that in the Empire State, we get to determine what laws and what parts of this we want to cherry pick and use and put into practice in our state. And again, our state supersedes all others. Okay? When you're talking about subjects, United States in blue, because they are subject to the Moors as well. And then the black ones, we just lean. Okay? And then you can read further there the mailbox rule, because it's also going to, just one moment. It also explains further about as soon as you put it in the mail, it is the law. Restatement of contracts, and here it is, restatement language, echoes the opinion of many states distinguishing between an option contract and a bilateral contract. Our state gets to determine that. That's why statehood is so important. Because we are the state, we are the law, we are the government. Okay? And our state gets to determine, we get to determine that as a body, what we want to be the law and all of that. And at any time we can say that's the law for our state. And we've actually been saying that on the public record. If you go back to the calls that we've had previously, we've been saying as soon as you get it to the post office, it's a wrap. It's the law. It's accepted. Okay? If you could put in the chat, can you all hear me? I want to be sure that we can hear. Islam, thank you, Justice. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. It says, except, let's see, the restatement. The restatement reads, unless the offer provides otherwise, an acceptance made in a manner or by a medium invited by an offer is operative and completes the manifestation of mutual assent as soon as put out of the offeree's possession, without regard to whether it ever reaches the offerer. But an acceptance under an option contract is not operative until received by the offerer. So you get to decide. In other words, and this is key, in other words, under jurisdictions which have adopted the restatement rule, the mailbox rule doctrine applies to bilateral contracts, but not to option contracts. And then the California rule in the minority of states, which is not us, even if you're in Khalifa territory, that's not your state. Your state is the Moors, is the Empire State of Morocco or any other, okay? Or the state of your choosing, okay? Because no one can tell the Moors. The Moors will do what they want to do, okay? So, just one moment. Let me make sure that I'm seeing what I need to see here. One moment. Okay. All right. Okay. So now, it says in Palo Alto v. BBTC Company, the court held in California the effective upon posting rule has received legislative sanction and is the declared policy of this state. Okay, so now for the purposes of this call, we can go ahead and do a non-pro-tunc vote on the mailbox rule and the posting rule. And what that's going to do is it's going to retroactively, okay, put the past documents that you put on the record and put via the post office. It's going to retroactively put them into law. They're law already, okay? All we're doing is putting it on the public record. That's all we're doing. So just one moment. So I would like for us to take a vote on the mailbox rule and the posting rule and making it the law for the entire state of Morocco. You know, it's always up to us to do that. Okay, to put it on the record that this is the law. Retroactively, not pro-tunc. Now, I know that some will say, well, it's the law anyway because we say it is. Well, we still have to be competent and do the right processes in terms of voting and letting the people speak, because the problem has been we were not speaking together in a unified manner like we are now. So all of those, and you can star 6, all of those in favor of having the mailbox rule and the posting rule be the law for the entire state of Morocco. If you would, please star 6, unmute, state your appellation, and express a yay.
Is this like your moratorium for evictions that didn't work?
Just one moment. Just one moment. And again, those who are on these calls, our voices matter. And when we put it on the public record like this, it becomes effective for us. Everyone has to get under their own vine and fig tree. Has to. So for the Empire State, and
your moratorium for evictions didn't work,
and not everybody agreed. Okay. However, we still have to do these processes. We're standing as government. We are the government. We are the law. We have to do this in terms of agreement and putting it on the public record, etc. And then we proceed in like manner. So all of those in favor of the mailbox rule and the posting rule being the law for the entire state, if you'll unmute star 6, I am like Tadiri Bay. My vote is aye. Islam.
Islam. Travis Neal at Blue Z's Bay. Yay.
Yes. Yes.
Islam.
Silly Negroes, attention, cult members.
Just one moment.
Pauline is full of shit, you dumb cult members. Her moratorium on evictions didn't work. She took a vote on that too. Was anybody else here for that? Was anybody here for the moratorium on evictions call? They did a vote for that, and
don't let them. Okay. Hold on for just a moment more. Let me make sure that that one is not in here. Because, see, again, they know that as we do these processes, we cannot be stopped. But the ancestors are not going to let us get any further until we unify like this. We have to, okay? So, and of course, there's going to be some wanting to stop this from happening, but we'll keep going. The fact that they speak up at certain times tells me that we're absolutely on the right track. So go ahead, Moores. You can star 6 and unmute.
Islam.
Melanick Turner Lawrence Bay, aye.
Islam.
Musa Zubay, Memphis, Tennessee, yay.
Empress Aisha, Michigan Republic, yay.
Yes, Islam.
Islam. This is Justice Morpheus Pascal Ham, L. Yay.
Yay, Islam. That's a yay, right? And not a, is that a yay or a nay? I want to be sure.
Yeah, yes, yay.
Okay, Islam.
Islam, Maurice Lloyd L., Alabama Territory, yay. I.
Islam. Yes, yes. Islam.
Willis Smith, Mississippi Territory, I.
Yes, Islam.
Consulate. C. Petit L., Detroit Territory, yay.
Islam.
Denise Lorraine Brown Bay, yay.
Islam.
Patricia Tia, Salud Salam Gates Alvarez Gutierrez, yay.
Islam.
Carolyn Linda Wiggins, AL, Alabama Territory, yay.
Islam. And thank you in the chat, Justice Morley Bay from the UK Territory, United Kingdom Territory, yay. Islam, we see you, ability. Thank you.
Aryeh Devon, Razul L., Detroit Territory, yay.
Islam, thank you, nobility.
Eddie J. Bay, Illinois Territory, yay.
Islam, thank you.
Islam.
Now, are there any, go ahead, nobility.
UK Consul Bay, UK Territory.
Yes.
You got that?
Islam. Are there any more who are in objection to it? If you would please unmute and state no or nay. No or nay at this time. We have the yeas. Islam. We do have a unanimous vote once again, and I'm so excited about that. This is retroactive from, it is not post-hoc, so that all that we have stated previously, yes, Justice Cecil Alvarez L., we have your vote. I'll unlock the meeting and
your bullshit doesn't work, Polly.
Okay, there it goes. There it goes. That's what we were trying to move away from. Okay, so we have a unanimous decision from the people, from the Empire State, with regard to the mailbox rule and the postal rule being the law for our state. So now another something that I wanted to bring forth This past Friday, our grand chief was talking about the AA and the A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 on in terms of the classification. So where money is concerned. Yes, Nobility. Do you have a question, Justice Eddie? Okay. So this past Friday, our grand chief was talking about how on the money, and I don't think he was talking about on the money. I think he was talking about the classification of the citizens. Their classification is like A1, A2, A3, A4, and ours is for the Aboriginals and Originals. And I say original, they say Aboriginal, and that's okay. We're still in agreement. Is AA, like AA 222-141A1 truth. And so we've added that to the Delarium. But you know how on the fiat, one side had the pyramid on it, and the other side had the eagle on it, right? So we have looked at that, and we know that to us, and from what we can see, that symbolizes agreement, okay? It symbolizes agreement between us and the ones that are doing business at, well, not the ones that are doing business, but the subject, and the United States corporation company that we actually did hire, not the one that's been hypothecating and subrogating and capitalizing unlawfully and fraudulently, okay? There is a United States corporation company that we hired. And so on the money or on the fiat, both parties were represented, right? Supposedly represented. So on the Delarium, we have, I want to point out a few things that we've done, okay? The AA classification is for the nationals. It's on here. The A1 is on the citizenship document. So what Grand Chief was saying, and this is, I remember now, what he was saying on this past Friday is that on citizenship documents, when people come to this land and they get their citizenship documents like a citizenship paper, A1 is on there, okay, which is the A1 truth part of AA 222-141 A1 truth, okay, and that is, we all know what that number is. That's our not tax status, okay. And we've been saying this, when the subjects are in subject status and they're doing as commanded, they're not taxed either. When the subjects are not, because taxes are actually supposed to be for those doing commerce. Now, if the subjects are doing commerce, they are taxed. But if they're not doing commerce, they're not taxed because they're subjects of the Moors. So we did this with the Delarium, but then we said, okay, what is it that needs to happen with regard to that other seal that's on the document? So we looked at the Constitution and we see that, you know, there is a superior court, a Supreme Court rather, which is the Moors. We know that. This Article 3 court, all Moors are the Article 3 Supreme Court. And then we said, well, let's get some agreement with an inferior court. Okay? one that is inferior. And when we say inferior, we're not trying to put anyone down. That's what the Constitution calls them, inferior to the Supreme Court. So we're not being egotistical by any means by saying that they're an inferior court. They know they're an inferior court, and we do too. So when we put them in proper status and we've liened them and done all the things that we need to do and notified them and all of that, so then what we did with the Diallarium is we said, okay, we're going to stamp on the back. We're going to put we're going to have an inferior court to witness our money, So we turned the Diallarium over on the back and stamped it. And again, it says received judge's mailroom. Now, who's the judge? We are. And that's why we put that this stamp is okay. It's a purple stamp. This one is purple. We've gotten other county stamps and et cetera, and they're in blue or with red writing, or blue with, some of them even have blue and black depending on their status, not ours. But this is King County Superior Court, okay? We know that the county is the land, right? With the county being the land court, and it's an inferior land court, we're the superior Supreme Court. So in order for any of this to happen, we had to send out court actions from our sovereign court first, like we've been showing, okay? So now that we have gotten a witness, because where 2 or 3 witnesses are come together, let every word be established. Because in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All of that comes together when we have our sovereign read in all lowercase letters, autographed with our white red thumbprint. It's right here on the front of the Diallarium. And then on the back is in purple, received, the King County Superior Court. Now, the ones that are our royal subjects, that's why the stamp is purple, because they're royal subjects of the Moors. We talked about the jurisdictional colors previously. We will say this about that. When you are competent to do so, okay, because we would not, and again, that's why we don't tell Moors what to do. When you are competent to do so and you feel comfortable doing it and you've given proper notification in red and all lowercase letters, any of the county courthouses in your territory has a place where you can go and stamp your documents and stamp your Diallarium, okay? It cannot be on war terms that is done. It has to be done peacefully and competently, okay? And so we have stamps on the Diallarium, and that means that where competent money is concerned, both parties are presented. So now we have the pyramid on the money. You see the pyramid right there on the left. We have the consulate stamp on the right, and it's not as clear on this, but it's very clear in the actual money is very clear. And then we have other things in blue and red where jurisdiction is concerned. And then we have here the stamp of King County, it says Superior Court, okay? And that's a purple stamp that they have. And then you put that with documents that you've had stamped. For example, let me pull up some documents here for you so that you can see. For example, this document right here. Let me put it on the screen. Again, we're talking about acceptance of delarium for what we are doing, for the things that we're doing. So with that, we put this affidavit that's on the screen. Can you see it on the screen, Eric? A document that says Moorish sovereign delarium gold exchange rate. Every county courthouse, all you have to do is find out where, and this is all I did. I just went in and said, where do we stamp documents? Where do we stamp documents? Because we did the stamping. Not them, we did it. Where do we stamp documents? And now this is something that landlords and all of that, that's where they go to get their documents stamped so that it makes it look like they got a court to agree with them. Remember that, heirs? You can go and get them stamped, and you're doing the stamping because it's your job to do it. Okay? So now we did the same thing with the delarium. We said, okay, one gold back Moorish sovereign delarium is $1. And then we did what? We went and got here on the left-hand side, we got another King County Superior Court stamp. And we put it on there as received. That means accepted, Morris. That means accepted. Because see, when landlords come with the ones that were previously doing business as landlords would come with their documents and stuff, that's all they did. They didn't go and stand before anybody and say anything. They would just go and do this. And then over here it says, on the left is Pierce County, Washington. Now, it says here Constance R. White County Clerk by, and it has a deputy thing here. I put my sovereign autograph in red and all lowercase numbers as the D put E, the deputy. What is a deputy? The root word is put. What does that mean? That means we're changing someone's position. We're putting something somewhere. That means motion and movement has taken place. Movement, not motion, movement. That means that we're taking it and de-putting it here in the proper jurisdiction. So, and we don't have to file anything with them, okay? It says filed. Why? Because the Constitution is filed with them. That supersedes any other document that the county has. We're the county, original county. Okay? So there was some citizens of subject there that were testing. They were just testing. Are you filing anything with us? This is already filed. Do you understand that the Constitution was filed first? Okay. Clank, clank, clank. So, and then you have the sovereign seals of our sovereign state and nation and government and consulate here. Okay. And that makes this, that again, we needed 2 witnesses. Okay. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in our name, because remember, they've been using our name. They've been using names that are, so they're the ones with the name, and they've been, you know, they can't do anything without the heir's consent, okay? And so now we have the 2 witnesses. There they are right there, the 2 witnesses to witness what our sovereign court has done. Okay. And what did we do? We went and got delarium. We took delarium with us and printed it out and stamped a bunch of delarium as well, in all different denominations, etc., so that we can move forth with agreement on the land. Where are we going next with this? Then the Moorish sheriff, or those who've been deputized by the Moors, can then start preparing to deal with the property. Because anything that has these stamps on it, these courts must enforce. That's why landlords, those that were previously doing business as landlords, would go out there and make sure they got those stamps. And then by the time the heirs receive some fraudulent document with that on it, we're scared to death and thinking that we have to go somewhere. No. Those were actually they were just showing us how we're supposed to do it, where domiciles and things are concerned. But we have to be in our proper status. And if you'll notice, the stamp over here is blue. This court is it's inferior to the court in purple. Okay? They know jurisdiction. So when they see documents in red and all lowercase letters, they know it's coming from the heirs. Be not dismayed, be not afraid, be not fooled. They know what these colors mean. They've been using them the whole time. And here we used to be going into those places with documents in black ink, talking about rights and things. They know jurisdiction because we taught them jurisdiction. We taught them that. Now, Moors, is it necessary to have these on your documents in order for your documents to be valid? No, it's not. We were led to do it because we know that the 2 or 3 witnesses on every document is necessary in terms of, even if I autograph the document, just me autographing a document, still, every autograph that's on the public record, it comes with that, because it's the Empire State that's speaking. It's not me individually. It's the Empire State of Morocco. Our government and our state is the venue. Our courts are the venue to get things done, I'm telling you. And when we know that, then these types of things manifest. And we can properly put them in their proper place and all of that. Okay? And the Constitution and everything has 2 stamps on it. But again, it has our court action language first. All rise and stand is at the top of every document. So our court is speaking as the sovereign, supreme, ultimate, universal, ancient court. And then we get the lower courts to do as commanded. And again, I didn't have to go to any of them for these stamps to appear on the document. All I did was walk up to the counter where documents are stamped and just stamp them. Period. So I did that a few days. I've been doing that for days now, just making sure that we have in the inferior court, and that sheriffs and everybody they have to enforce this. All of the enforcement capabilities of these inferior courts is ours. but we have to be competent and peaceful to do so. We had to know to put everything in red when we speak. And then when you're referring to them, put them in blue. And look on this document. It says one go back more times alarm is equal to $1. Well, the $1 is in blue. That means that subjects can use delarium too, just like we thought we were citizens and we were using their military script. Well, now everyone can use delarium and they don't have an excuse not to use it because A1 is on there. A1 truth is on there. Okay. So, just one moment. Just one moment. Islam. Okay. Are there any questions or comments here? Let me. Yeah, you can star 6 and unmute yourselves at your will, Islam. Are there any questions about what has been done here? Islam nobility.
What about that new delarium?
The delarium is not new. There were a couple of higher. There was like a $1 trillion delarium. Well, the average of us in our daily activities is not going to use $1 trillion delarium. The $1 trillion delarium, I'll tell you what they're for, and you can look back in the war records. And when I say war records, I mean Library of Congress in black. The ones that we thought were the real records, those are not real records, they're war records. And they're actually real war records. But when you look back in the Library of Congress and all of that, and you look at the manifestation of money and how it started, in fact, let me give you a link that you can use to study that. So again, there were just some higher denominations that were added, okay? And those go between nations and Federal Reserve systems and all of that. So we've been using those to speak to our Federal Reserve system. Because remember, the dead one, we put that dead one in the grave with a lien, court action, etc. And now the living one, which is subject to the Moors, it's a living subject system. We speak to that one and we give that one trillions because the whole earth needs resources. And I'll say this here. Let me put this in the chat. The link that I just put in the chat, you're going to find some interesting information there, very interesting information, such as they're going to show you some older, it's a Federal Reserve website. It's the Federal Reserve website. But it's frbsf.org. So you know they're not claiming to be government. They're not claiming to be government. It's an org.org website. But it's the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco.org. They have some great information on there. They have some photos of some of the first colonial currencies, and you can see it's plain as day, signed in red, printed in red on one side and black on the other. Our ancestors knew that this time would come. But we had to demonstrate it in order for them to say, okay, yep, you've been listening to the Spirit, everyone, all Moors. You've been listening to the Spirit, and this is the affirmation that you need in order to manifest that. In fact, I will put on the screen one of the. Let's see. Let's pull this one. One of the currencies from 1776, somewhere around that time period. Can you see that on the screen? Okay. You see the red, and you see the autograph in red? That's from, and it says it, oh, there's another one from 1776, signed with copper ink. That's why the ink looks brown, because it's copper. Let me go back to the other one. Here it is. But you can see that it's signed in red right there, clear as day. You see that? In order to get things started, it has to be done this way that we're doing it, Morris. It has to be done that way. And we've done it with the Delarium. We continue to do the ancestors. And Delarium will change over time as we study and as the state sees more things and the more things are revealed to us about our money. Because I noticed that in this link, and I'll put the link under the video, they were putting out new versions as they learned and as things changed, and as the Moors either decided to go to sleep or decided to say, okay, hold up, all of your money we need to authorize that in order for it to work. It needs to be authorized by us.
Islam.
Thus the red ink. Islam.
One more thing. I was wanting to inquire about the new updates you have to the previous DeLorean.
Why?
No, I was inquiring, is there any downloads for the new upgrades to the DeLorean?
I can email it to you. However, the older, not old, but the original DeLorean looks the same. The only difference is there are some higher denominations. So the original DeLorean that we put out, the highest denomination is 100 million. With the additions to the DeLorean, there is $1 trillion DeLorean, and there's, let me see, 100 million, there's $1 trillion, there's 100 trillion, I think, like that.
Yeah.
So there are, most Moors will not use those kinds, just because all we're doing is speaking directly to our system, which is the quote-unquote federal, and I can't say quote-unquote because this is the real one. The quote-unquote one is dead. We killed it. We decapitated it, rather. We moved it from office.
Islam. What I was expressing is the new boxes and squares you have on the AA and.
Oh, that part. Okay, so that is not on. That's something that I put there based on my study. Okay, and that's why I'm putting it on the screen. Let me put that back on the screen so that you can see it.
Indeed.
All it's doing is expressing that's this right here. Yeah. It's expressing what's already in our document, okay? The only thing that was not in our documents previously is the United States Treasury routing number in blue. So the things that are on this Delarium are things that, in my study, it matched the document. Empire State, and that's why we're putting it out here, so that you can edit your Delarium as well as you see fit. Some don't feel the need to edit their Delarium. Okay, you could still use it. It's your money. But we put the master account number on there, the Federal Reserve master account number in red and all lowercase letters, because that matched the IRS documents that we put on the public record in red and all lowercase letters. We know we're the original IRS, so what we did was pull all the creditor codes and attach the creditor codes to that account. And that's some study that we did back in 2019, 2020 time period. And then the state fiduciary commercial account is the 1010-5905 profit noble diall document. It's in blue. Even though, you know, the documents that we've seen, we know our profit is honorable. And so we put the 1010-5905 document, state fiduciary document on here as well, because it is a part of our state document in red and all lowercase letters. Okay, and then the blue numbers is for our system, the system that is subject to the Moors. Okay, so this solarium did not go out in a massive way, because not everyone even understands what the numbers mean, but those who do will know how to craft their own, just like this. United States, and some don't care to learn that much about accounts and routing numbers, etc. Their money is still good, because guess what? We didn't have routing numbers and account numbers and all of that when the United States Corporation Company was doing anything. All they used was a signature. Okay? So we're just doing things according to the study and making it even, we're just going into detail and being more specific with what we're doing. United States Treasury account number, that is my sovereign security number. When it was in black, and they had one that the United States Corporation Company had one that they issued with minus signs in it, we had to lien that one and do a court action and decapitate that one. And then we created our own using this sequence of numbers, but no dashes, and it's in red, and it accompanies letters in red and all lowercase letters. And then the United States Department AA222141 A1 Truth number is there also. And again, just like our grand chief was saying this past Friday at House of Reawakening Minds, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, those are all citizen numbers, not the sovereign numbers. Okay, but the citizens can use the money. It's just that their status had to be presented on it. And as it turns out, our prophets presented that in A1 Truth, in having A1 Truth on there. And if they're to be truthful, they will acknowledge that they're citizens and we're the heirs. Period. So again, with the Dollarium, you can look at these numbers, and if you feel led to put these on your Dollarium, go ahead. Some are not led to do that, and that's why we didn't just put this out here en masse. Okay, because you are the government for your vast estate. You're the government for your vast estate. So you can govern your vast estate with particulars, such as this. These are particulars. Okay? So this was not sent out. I'm putting it up here now so that you all can see the study that has gone into the Dollarium and what we're doing with regard to the Dollarium, because it is the state money and the nation money and the government money for those who assent only, not, you know, if Moors don't want to use it and they wanted to create their own state and do their own money, they're free to do that. That's fine, because we're going to be trading together anyway. And Dollarium is just kicking off our own money and getting those processes going for us as a nation and as the state and as the government, because we need it. It's constitutional. It's the law. You know. So this was not, this is not put out. And some may not feel comfortable with these steps on here. Okay. We know what the jurisdictions look like and what they are and how they're presented. If the stamp had been black, we wouldn't have put it on there, because we're not black and we're not having, and blacks cannot speak when it comes to the Moors. blacks have no voice. And when I say blacks, we all know that means status and not skin color, because we're brown. Okay. Let's see, what else? These are some of the ways, again, that acceptance, this shows that acceptance has been already, that the documents have already been accepted, and we showed this the other day. This is an acceptance with initials by one of the quote-unquote banks that we have liened and put them in subject status. This is acceptance already according to the mailbox law and the posting law that we have implemented today. So all of our documents have been accepted. And here, acceptance again, what does accept mean? To receive with approval or satisfaction, to receive with intent to retain, period. And that's from Black Law 4th edition. Let's see. And I think that's it. And this is delivery. This is me delivering the document that we just put on the screen to our state capital, because that's ours. Okay. With the stamps and everything. So again, notice the agent is notice the principal, notice the principal is notice the agent on all that we do. Are there any other questions about what's been done and the vote that we took today? Thank you so much for voting, because some people, they're making us this whole reversion of a state, they're making it so easy for us. They really are, and we love that. We appreciate our ancestors for making this easier and easier and easier the more competent we are with what we're doing.
Islam, Empress, one more thing. Through my study, I went through the natural area code, the natural, what is it called? The NAC. How about that?
Yes. Okay, so wait a minute, let me go to that. For those, so that those who are on the call will know what you're talking about. Let me go back to that. The natural area code is right here on the screen. It's NAC at the bottom. Go ahead, Nobility.
Indeed. I went to the site, and it won't express the map no more. It don't express the map no more. It's blank.
Okay, let me go to the site then. I'll just go to it and see if it will do it. Natural area code. NAC. I think that's it. There it is right there. I think that's it. One moment. I'll go to the site. It's so funny when you go into Google and you start looking things up that you're putting in things like natural area code and it brings up natural area roads. Like that. All right, let me put that on the screen so you can see. Nope, not that.
Because it used to work, but now it's the ones I was going through, it don't show it at all.
Just a moment. Okay. Let me just see if I can pull that up on the screen. Okay, it's nacgeo.com. Okay, so when you go to the site, this is what comes up. Can you see it on the screen there, Nobility?
Indeed.
Okay, so when I go, this doesn't mean anything. I just say get map. And it's going to give an error message. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Can't reach this page. Just 1 second. Normally it will give an error message. Of course it's not going to do it because we're all here. Let me see.
That's what I normally get.
You do? I have not gotten that. They might be making some updates to it. Let me just see. More applications. Okay, there it is. Yeah, they might be doing some updates to it. Because, see, the more of us that start using these instruments and things, okay, here, let me see, I'll be able to get it. Yeah, they might be updating the map system because it's not coming up. At this point, it's saying can't reach this page, which means that it's something on their part. Let me see. When you have this many people using these, let me see. Yeah, I haven't used it in a while because I have all of this information for ours. Okay. Yeah, they might be enhancing their maps and updating their maps because the maps are the only part that I'm not able to get to at this point.
Indeed.
And it's saying that page is not there, so it's all it means is that they're updating their system. Yeah, they're updating it. So just give it a little while, and you'll be able to get back to it. Okay. Whenever that happens, again, a lot is changing, and it's changing because of the Moors and what we're doing. Okay. There's some things that have been covered that are just now uncovering. Okay. Yeah, website maintenance. It could be any of that. Thanks, Tia. It's nothing to worry about because at some point it will be available to you, and when you see it the next time, it's going to be super enhanced with more. And I'll say this too: the maps are changing because a lot of them are going back to the maps that really are. After a while, you're going to see ancient maps up there, and we'll be anciently able. That's the purpose of the natural area code anyway, is to put us back into the ancient, when we look, and not put us back because we're already there. The technology actually has to catch up with us and make sure that it's land coordinates instead of an address. So they're just trying to catch up with us. That's all. That's not a surprise to me that it's like that, because they're trying to catch up with the Moors. We already, we're back on the land and everything, and they have to get everything in alignment with what we're doing. So, but it's all good. I wouldn't worry about it, nobility. If you don't have it already, then just give it a couple of weeks and it'll be up there. But in the interim, you don't have to put that. You can put latitude and longitude, and you can get that from anywhere. Okay? Yeah, you can get latitude and longitude. Because, again, as long as you didn't use a zip code, as long as you don't use a zip code, you're good.
Indeed.
Okay. I will say this about the zip code. Grand Sheik talked about them. He mentioned them briefly this past Friday. That's a tax coordinate for them. That doesn't have anything to do with us. But then the reason when we send things out, the reason we use zip codes to talk about them is because we're taxing them. It's not the other way around. That's why we don't have them anymore. Everything is switching back to what it should be. And I'm so glad. I'm grateful for all that our ancestors are doing in our favor. Are there any other questions or comments or wisdom or anything of that nature? Okay. Hopefully you find the information that we put on these calls helpful. I know that, you know, flipping the court piece, anyone who has any court, anything out there where some subjects are sending something and saying that, you know, just a moment, their template with affidavit documents for lien a mortgage corporate. Yes, it's the same lien. There's a question in the chat that says, is there a template writ affidavit document for liening a mortgage corporate company? It's the same liens we've been doing. That has not changed at all. Let me pull one up on the screen really quickly so that you can see what that looks like. It's very, very, and that's something that you can just copy it, type it up, type up one for you. Let me pull one up on the screen really quickly. I love what we're doing. I love our work. What's that? Okay. There we go. Okay. Hopefully you can see this lien on the screen. This lien is the one for the United. Hold on for just a moment, please. Just one moment. This is the lien for those that were doing business at the United States of America and the United States Corporation Company, okay? And these liens all look the same. They have the lien information here that says that, you know, here it says, a filing office that accepts written records may not refuse to accept a written initial financing statement in this form and format except for a reason set forth in those subsections entitled what constitutes filing, effectiveness of filing. So we know that these are valid liens. Some have been saying that. And this was an 11-page legal size 11-page lien. Okay. And we did get this lien witnessed by the Interior Court, as you can see here. So the lien template is under the previous videos that we've done, especially the last few videos. There are lien templates under there that you can use, that you can download and edit. They do need editing and formatting by you. That's why we put them there, so that you can pull those liens. And then you can also see that this lien is on the public record that the United States Corporation Company has been named with witnesses by the heirs. Okay. And again, in purple. This was stamped February the 2nd, 2022. with their stamp, with the subject stamp. And remember, we've been saying that they are administrative clerks, because they are. Okay? The template is under the past videos that are out there. Okay? Are there any other questions or comments? Any questions in the chat? Let me just make sure. Okay. With that being said, we will go ahead and adjourn until Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And with that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs, Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Islam, peace and love.
Islam.
Islam, grand rising.
Peace and love.
Islam.
Peace and love.
Let there be light.
Who said that? Was that beautiful singing voice? Oh my God, that was funny.
How you doing, Empress Light? I love you.
All
it's
is
just
well.
a fear.
I love you too. Was that you?
That was me.
Islam, I love you too. Okay, I love you. Know I love
good
you
night.
too. Islam.
Empress Light.